right, and we are back. Thank you, everybody, for joining us once again. This is Legend Has It. We are here to discuss the full and complete solution to the Legend of Avarice Bad Omen treasure hunt that we put out, and it has been solved by Stacy Anderson and her crew. Um, we have that video that we're going to be posting as well, our interview with them. Um, I am Andy.
I am Nate. Hello.
And let's go ahead and get started with this. I'm going to share the legend that we have.
I'll just we'll read through it step by step and explain what the clues are, the hints are, the things to solve, and how to solve them. Here we have the introduction. Here you already know we have the three key documents that's going to constitute the rest of this legend, right? So that initial newspaper article, then that follow-up letter to the editor, and this new third document that we'll see is a police report. So let's move. Oh, there's a little cool picture of the Nevada Triangle. So we can go and scroll down.
And conveniently or not, skirts right along the side of Area 51.
With this text of the legend, we included a photograph. That's actually the background you see right now behind Andy. If you can zoom in, you'll see that what's highlighted there is map section 205. Honestly, I get a real quick Google search, NPS map 205, even though it's National Geographic, just saying NPS map 205, boom, the top hits are all Sequoia National Park. So that's still a huge area, but it's not nearly as huge. It's quite narrowed down already. Okay, so let's get started. Here's that first newspaper article. It's from one Farrah Jackson, A Night of Mystery in the Nevada Triangle. You'll see that it's dated October 12th, 2018. I'll just start reading through it. I still remember where I was and when. Okay, this is just setting the stage at this point. So there are no real clues in this. A lot of this actually reflects Andy and I when we discovered the Nevada Triangle. 2,000 planes. How did we not hear about this before?
All these things that we mentioned in this paragraph. These were all things that we discovered while we were learning more about the Sierra Nevadas. And yes, there are a lot of UFO sightings there. Mysterious disappearances from people hiking along in groups, Bigfoot sightings, all of these different things. All of that is actually well documented. And this is what initially drew us in.
Yeah, it was just too good to be true. We can just leave it.
I'll continue on. Okay, so it says, I found myself discussing. All right, so there's a couple of clues that have arisen in this paragraph. The first one being that there was a small fire in the area. This little clue was fairly obscure, and I personally felt like this was probably one of the harder ones, was to actually find out what fire we were talking about. Another clue here was that it was on a loop trail, and the timeline that it was just over 3 years later.
This article was written in October 2018. So already you're probably thinking 2015 time frame for this fire, right? And you would be correct.
I'll mention the tool that we were using. If you look at caltopo.com, you can look at a map of that area, and if you have it, you can click on an overlay that shows the fires that have been in the area. This is the loop trail that Farrah Jackson and her friend would have taken. And right over here, we see that there is a small fire from 2015 called the Big Five Fire. The reason it is called the Big Five Fire is because in this area, there is a chain of 5 big lakes, and there is also along the trail a chain of 5 smaller lakes. So that's why they call the Big Five. These are the 5 big lakes. And it just goes over the trail just a little bit. And so this is the fire that would have prevented them from being able to go along this trail, because the National Park Service actually closed this trail due to that fire that time.
We were a little nervous that this was going to be too obscure of a clue, because like if you were looking at all the different fires, if you kind of narrowed it to 2015, and then you look at, well, what kind of trails were they by? Were they by well-known like loop trails or not? Like that was the way we imagined it to be solved, and we didn't know like, is it too hard or not? But actually, the team that solved it, they actually found that fire from a blog post. Is that what they said? I believe it was a blog post
Yeah, it was like
of
a blog journal of some
uh,
hikers. They had walked past that burn area and they took photos of it, and they actually found these photos with the burns, and that's the way they found it, which completely blows my mind that they actually found it that way and not the way that
yeah,
we expected it.
no, because it's a really, even if you're like specifically searching for that fire, like it's like not an easy one to read up on. It's the very few sources talk about it.
I'll read this next section also. Our second to last morning took us past the burn area from 3 years previous, and that evening we found ourselves before yet another alpine lake where we set up our camp. There was a vantage point nearby that allowed us to look down a canyon onto the trail where we had been some days earlier. Okay, I'm going to pause here because there's a lot of stuff that's going on. By talking about their second to last morning, if you have correctly identified the trail, you will know that there are two directions that you can go along the trail, and your second to last morning will park you at a campsite on an alpine lake. So that now gives you an idea of the direction that they have been traveling. You've got the location on the trail, and they said that they had a vantage point where they could look down the canyon to the place where they had been previously. And that gives you a location of where they would have been standing at this moment. Continuing on, it was a stirring moment and a perfectly fitting conclusion to a remarkable journey. After a late supper, we made our way back to that vantage point to enjoy our nightly stargazing routine by using the Starview app. Now, this Starview app, if you haven't downloaded it, please do that. It's a fantastic app. It's super cheap, and the guys that created it are super awesome too. They participated in our first hunt and in this hunt, and they were actually one of our sponsors. The Skyview app. You can see their logo over here up on the left side, Skyview. Go to their app, download it. It's on. They have it for iOS and Android too. So, all right. So turning on my phone, I had hardly opened the app when, to our surprise, we noticed a solitary green light moving low in the sky, very low, below the horizon. In fact, the light moved silently until it suddenly vanished in a dramatic burst of light. Here, there are some additional clues. We have so first they're looking at their app. They have their app open, they're stargazing, and they see this green light moving across the sky, but it's actually below the horizon. So from their vantage point, they're actually quite high in elevation, and they can look down in the canyon, and they see down in this canyon just a little bit below the horizon from where they would have been was this green light moving across the sky. If you've read through the whole thing, you already know that we're kind of looking at an airplane. Knowing that it's a green light actually identifies the direction of travel that this airplane is going in.
Right, because the green light would be on the if you're the pilot, it's going to be on your right hand wing, right, starboard side. So if you're looking at a plane and you see a green light, then it's moving from your point of view. It's moving to your right, from your left to your right.
Yeah. So now we know that from her, she's looking down this canyon, and this plane is actually flying up the canyon from her left to her right. It says we were stunned, uncertain of what we had just witnessed. Jessica believed it was a UFO, but I couldn't rule out an airplane crash. Either way, something had happened and we had witnessed it. On such a dark, moonless night as it was, there was no way for me to make out any landmarks before us. With nothing to reference but the stars, I pointed my Skyview app towards where the burst of light had been and wondered at what we had just seen.
We know a few things. First, when this happened, it's dark. It's dark outside. Now, we know the date of the article when the article is written, but at no point is the date when they're actually out there given, right? But we know it's not only dark, it's dark enough to have like some solid stargazing, okay? At this point, Hopefully you've identified the loop trail, the burn. You've identified where they're standing, so you know where they are. Now it's just, when are they? Like, when is this occurring? We've already established they had a late supper. They're out there looking at the stars. They had just started doing this when they witnessed this thing happening. It's like not 2 a.m., right? It's, the first couple hours ish of the night, but the moon is nowhere to be seen. Oh, at least not yet. Let's jump down to that police report. There's lots of good information that you can use to kind of confirm you're on the right path. But the really crucial piece is the date reported on this police report. Have this printer wheel ink mark kind of down the page that blocks what month we're in. But you see the day is the 27th. It's the 27th of some month in 2018. So the theft is reported at 6:20 p.m. You can read through the details here. The key piece is that it's a 2011 Beechcraft Bonanza G36. And if you look that up, it will have a cruise speed that they're right around 200 miles an hour. How long it would take for that aircraft to get there. You'll get a figure that it was an hour and a half to get up there. Maybe hour and 40 minutes, somewhere around there. We're pushing up to 8 p.m. Right? But this can all kind of just confirm what we can actually derive from the legend itself. If you look at all the months of the year, 12 times we'll have the date of 27. Right. And in fact, actually, because it starts with the 0, you do see the 0 in the month. You have these 9 possible days in which this could have been in 2018. But then you combine it with the fact that it was dark and the moon had not yet risen. When you look at that, there are only 2 dates, August 27th and September 27th, which that's true. And August 27th, it's kind of like barely true. The moon rose during, or maybe towards the end of civil twilight. Maybe August 27th, but that's kind of a stretch. But then September 27th is solid. The moon rises that night a full hour after nautical twilight. Nautical twilight ended at 7:40, the 41. The moon rose at 8:40. Yep, an hour. Now we've identified an actual hour in which this could have happened. And in fact, you're looking, say, close to 8 o'clock, given the data from that aircraft, right? It would have gotten there at 7:50 p.m., 8 p.m. And sure enough, nautical twilight started at 7:40. Moon didn't rise for an hour later. Everything lines up. And in fact, it's the only day that ends in a 27. It's the only day in that year in which all that lines up.
It does say that it was on a dark moonless night, but that it doesn't mean it was the entire night. It's just when she was out there stargazing, there was no moon.
What was super fun about this is that on July 27th, another 27 of that year, there was actually a lunar eclipse. And this actually threw a lot of people thinking that we were referring to a lunar eclipse as there being no moon on a July 27th. But that actually you could have quickly ruled out, because that lunar eclipse was only visible from the other side of the world. It wasn't visible from anywhere in the United States at all. So, but still, that was it was a fun kind of a coincidence, because after we had already picked that date of September 27th, we realized, hey, on July 27th, there's this lunar eclipse.
She continues, the next day we spoke with a park ranger who disregarded it as just another UFO sighting. Over the following weeks, I tried finding reports of missing planes and pilots, but couldn't find anything that would line up with what we saw, aside from a report of a stolen plane earlier that same day. Alas, it looks like maybe yet another unsolved mystery for the Nevada Triangle. Signed, Farrah Jackson. So this finishes up this page. We wrote this in a way that if it had really happened, it could have actually happened in this way.
If, imagine you had actually found this newspaper and you're reading it, you would not expect that crossword to contain any clues about what Farrah had seen, right? That wouldn't make sense.
Yeah, so at least from Farrah Jackson, there are no more clues to be gained.
Okay, letters to the editor. All right, notice that now this is dated May 2nd of 2019. Now this is different, right? Now this is somebody, this Adam character, Adam Jensen, is intentionally putting clues in. Not the cryptogram that you see at the bottom, because again, that has nothing to do with Adam Jensen's little letter to the editor here.
He would not have known that they were going to put a cryptogram
Exactly.
together
So
with his article, so that anything that's on the periphery of his article has absolutely nothing to do at all with the rest of this legend, because Adam is the last contributor, and he would have no idea what other things would have been included in this newspaper article.
he does encode. It's a simple coded message.
The first letter of each sentence spells out 587 pounds gold. We'll actually come back to this. It'll make more sense later on when we talk more about the provenance of where this gold came from.
All right. So up to this point, it's setting the stage for who this Adam character is. This next paragraph, it's packed with clues.
Study the page of Farah's article carefully, and when you have found what isn't there, let it be your guide. And so if we go back up to Farah's article, we're going to study the page and see what isn't there. And if we did release a hint on this one because we weren't sure how easy or difficult this would have been. If you look at the logo for the Skyview app, which again, please download this one. These guys are awesome. But if you look on the Big Dipper, it shows 6 stars, but there are actually 7 stars in the Big Dipper. There's a third one right on that handle. They got one first star, second star, and then there's actually a third star in the handle before you actually get to the cup. And that star is called Alioth, and that's the thing that is missing. It isn't there. It's a smaller star, so it makes sense for them to kind of knock it off. But
we're not dissing him or anything. It's stylized. We kind of chuckled, like, oh, isn't it funny that in their logo they actually are missing a star in the constellation, and they're like, hey, let's use this.
When we found what isn't there, that star, we're letting that star now be our guide, and that is our reference point. So now we have the location of where Farah is standing, the time of day, and we now also have a direction for where she would have been looking. Continuing on, it says, embark on your journey at the same place and time, which we have, from where Farah saw the crash. Vary neither left nor right in your course until you reach the star.
There are 2 different stars we're talking about. The first is Alioth that's missing from that constellation image. But now we're talking actually about reaching a star. How would you reach that star? If you overlay, Farah's location, right? We know where she was. We know when she was. We have, that star as our guide. That gives us a direction, and that's, you see this blue line here. If you were to look at it, that blue line cuts right over a lake called Aster Lake. And Aster, of course, comes from the Greek. I think it's Greek, right? For star. That's like where we get asteroid, for example, from. And so it's Aster Lake. As long as your tolerance is greater than like a single degree, you'll be including that lake.
Continuing on here, we've embarked on a journey, very neither left nor right, till we reach the star. And it says, examine now the doors locked without a key, but choose the right one. Not knowing of which doors I speak means but one thing. You have yet to discover the treasure's provenance. Here we need to do a little digging, and I'm going to take you back down to this police report again. If we look further down on this police report, we see that there are some crates. Now, this is supposedly a cargo that had been picked up by the owner of this airplane that had been stolen. And if we look at this, the the logo right here that we have, the stamp, we've got an address and this stamp, and doing a search for that logo will lead you to the Travancore family or the Kingdom of Travancore. And the Kingdom of Travancore is inside of what is now today the state of Kerala, inside the country of India, which is way down at the very bottom tip of India. And so this is giving us a general area of where this crate had originated from. And looking at this address that's listed here, back in 2015, there was a guy by the name of Subhash Kapoor. He was running an enormous antiquities smuggling ring, uh, to the tune of $100 million, and it was a worldwide ring that he was running. But this address will lead you to a tiny little store in Manhattan called Art of the Past. So supposedly, whatever was stolen from the Kingdom of Travancore or the state of Kerala had made its way over to the Art of the Past store. We now know a little bit about the provenance of where this thing came from, but now we need to examine the doors. Now, what does this mean? This is where we're going to go back to the 587 pounds of gold. Now that we know that we are dealing with India, we know that we're probably not going to be talking about pounds, but kilograms. So if you convert that 587 pounds of gold into kilograms, what you come up with is 266 kilograms. And a brief search for 266 kilograms of gold will quickly bring you to multiple articles talking about gold that was discovered missing from the, pardon my pronunciation, but the Padmanabha Swami temple in the state of Kerala.
When Andy and I discovered this, like we were floored at just the sheer amount of gold and diamonds and treasure that they have. I mean, it's valued at over $1 trillion. $1 trillion, like that's like blows your mind. Like it is nuts. It is insane.
So, looking into the Subhash Kapoor, we know that we're looking for a dig site or a temple. We know that we're in the state of Kerala, and this Padmanabha Swami temple is mentioned in relation to the stolen 266 kilograms of gold. So that narrows it down to this temple, and we can rightly assume that this treasure, whatever it was, had been taken from that temple.
To be fair, like Subhash Kapoor has never actually been linked to this particular amount of missing gold. That was an invention that Andy and I just put together. Like, hey, this sounds like it could fit. Yeah.
If you're looking at this temple, it is almost impossible to not find multiple articles talking about some of the vaults that are inside of this temple. There are multiple chambers in there. They're all labeled like A, B, C, D, E, F. And one of the chambers supposedly has never been opened. And this one is chamber B. And I've got a photo of the doors. Okay. So this is.
Look at that door. I mean, that is so cool.
We can see a lot of different things going on the side here. We got these columns that are made up of these human bodies who would look like they are in the act of trying to climb. And no handles, no keyholes. It's been sealed shut. So this is the chamber that has supposedly not been opened in centuries. In order to open the doors to these chambers, what would be like the equivalent of the priest of these temples, they have to go through a specific ceremony where they're chanting, trying to remove the enchantments that are on those doors and the treasures on the inside so that you don't get cursed by entering in there. These are the doors that we are referencing in this legend. Examine now the doors locked without a key because there's no keyhole. but choose the right one. And now we were actually referencing the door on the right side.
The right door is the right one. Yeah.
Now we have these doors and we're on the right side. We say place the knob of noon over this star and place the serpent's eye where it may watch from the tower. We have the right side, and there are 12 triangles and there are 12 knobs, as in a clock. So if we take the one that would be in the noon position, that is the knob of noon. And then we talk about the serpent's eye on the right side. We have the serpent's eye on that door. And what we want to do, take this knob and we are placing it over the star. This image overlaid, we have the knob of noon is placed directly over Aster Lake. And on this map, we also have something that's called the Watch Tower. So a place where he can watch from the tower. That wasn't very difficult. But we have the watchtower, and we place the serpent's eye on that watchtower.
That watchtower is a very, very cool place. We like to get people out and exploring and boots on the ground. Just be careful because you'll be surrounded by cliffs.
All right. Then off at once and climb to the serpent's chin, where a most curious boulder awaits, much like a pointing hand. The serpent's chin is located about here. And so this is the first opportunity for us to go boots on the ground and climb to the serpent's chin.
So if you went right there where that chin is of that serpent, you kind of find yourself in a kind of a clearing area on the side of a mountain. And there are several large boulders there. One of which is a very large boulder. We kind of stopped and we looked at this thing like, what in the world? That is such a strange looking thing. And then we decided, that looks like a hand, a hand that's pointing, a cool feature. And so we wanted to include it.
So it was really the only boulder and very prominent boulder in a somewhat open area. And the side that we're looking at it is if you had gone straight from the nearest trail. And so we've climbed to the serpent's chin where we have found this curious boulder. And upon finding this boulder, beware its deceit, for you must travel exactly opposite. It says next to know is how far to go. The Mevrouw's number in micrometers.
We have that funny little symbol that almost looks like a U with a tail on the wrong side. That is the Greek symbol mu, but it's oftentimes used to represent micro. So, like you have a meter and a centimeter and a millimeter, and a micrometer is really tiny. And you wouldn't normally be using it for like measuring distance that you intend to travel. If we get the Mevrouw's number and in micrometers, and then maybe like convert it to like something normal, like meters or kilometers or something. Who's a mevrouw? It's Dutch. It means Mrs. Like, who is this Dutch Mrs.? You might notice the other sponsor. If you see her name Annika, that is a very typical Dutch name. If you go to her website, this Blazing Bandits website, that she sponsored us, she provides a phone number. That's the mevrouw's number. So if you were to interpret it as if it were micrometers and you convert it, you get approximately 2.08 kilometers. So now you're at that pointing hand and you need to go 2.08 kilometers in the direction opposite of where it is pointing. It lands you right at Panther's Gap.
So Panther's Gap, we have right here, we've got the boulder that we were looking at is about over here. Right here where these trails come together, there is a very large boulder that overlooks this canyon, and which is just stunningly beautiful.
Where do we leave off?
Right at the bottom, it says, after we've gone that distance of the Mevrouw's number, it says, do this and you will have before you what I call scenic rock, which is, we just described that. It says, stand on it and your final destination, though unclear, will be in sight.
From where Farah would have been standing, that location where you're now standing, the scenic rock, would have been in her line sight. She would have seen it. You're there. You're so close. Next.
All right. All right, so it says giants of two different kinds live in this land, each with their king. Onward towards the one or the other, but whom? Leading you to victory will be he who was once led by victory. Don't go too far, for the end is near. All right, so the giants of two different kinds live in this area. The area of the Nevada Triangle has both the highest points in North America and the contiguous United States, as well as the lowest point. And so the highest point is, we could call that a giant, and that would be Mount Whitney, the tallest mountain in the lower 48. And so that one is one of the kings. And the second king that's there, now this area that we're in, the Sequoia National Park, we're talking about giant sequoia trees. Okay, these are some of the largest trees in the world, and in fact, the largest tree by mass in the world lies within this park, and that one can rightly be considered another king, and this is called the General Sherman tree.
I mean, if you've never seen sequoia trees, they're huge, massive. And then you look up and you don't get like the first branches until like 100 feet up at least. And then you notice that the size of those first branches coming out are like bigger than typical trees. You know, we have these two giants all in this park. You have Mount Whitney and you have the General Sherman tree. And sure enough, if you're standing at Panther Gap, they're almost exactly in opposite directions. One's just about due east and one's just about due west. Two different directions you can go to from that rock.
Yeah, so which way are we going? We got to choose one. And it says the clue is what's leading you to victory is going to the whichever one was once led by victory. This is General Sherman, not the tree, obviously, but the man that the tree was named after. This is General Sherman depicted on his horse being led by this angel right here, whose name is capital V, Victory. So it is this victory angel that is leading him on to victory. And so from this clue, we know that it is the General Sherman tree. That is the giant that is being referenced, and that is the direction that we need to travel in.
And so from the scenic rock, you want to be heading west. The mountain kind of goes up in front of you, and there are lots of boulders.
And we would end up right over around here. And there is a very large boulder. Now, included with all of the material that you get with a legend, we also included a photo key. This is the image that we gave everybody who joined the hunt. The key is sending us a photograph of this boulder that doesn't have that part obscured out of it. Now, to prevent you from being able to glean too much information from this image, we had to clear out some of the horizon with white, but we also have a red arrow pointing to a specific location, and that is the location where we hid the coin. It doesn't have anything else to do with the legend. It's just a fun thing to have, and that itself is not the key. The key is the photograph, and the photograph that was sent to us, although covered in snow at the time, would have looked like this.
That's the location. That's where, in our story at least, this plane crash would have happened right here. We had been walking around looking. We knew we wanted to tell a story about a plane crash. We explored this whole area, and we're like, where would a plane wreck? And we're standing there, we're looking around, like, this feels right. I love this. This is it. This is where a plane would crash. And he's like, what's this? Moving the dirt around, we pulling these strange pieces, and
I design airplanes. I'm currently working on designing rockets. This looks an awful lot like a fuel line. This is an anti-corrosive coating that they put on aluminum on the inside of airplanes. I'm like,
these are pieces from an actual plane. Actually, in real life, a plane wreck site.
Once we discovered that this was an actual site of a plane wreckage, we actually contacted authorities and we let them know. They had no record of this crash, but it was apparent that it had already been cleaned up. Well, all the big parts, they're all gone. It was just a couple of little tiny pieces. They said, thank you for letting us know, but we're not going to do anything about it. It was unrecorded, And so looking at records of previous plane crashes would not have helped you at all to identify this location. And a little bit of a bonus, Sean, in his haste and his excitement for having discovered the correct location and taken the correct photo, um, he didn't find the coin that is sitting there.
But he said he looked for it quickly for a minute and then he just left. So we're assuming it is, in fact, still there.
Here we have Nate in that boulder where that red arrow is pointing. He is currently hiding that coin underneath a little ledge, and underneath there's this little ledge, and we have the coin in a little plastic baggie. If you happen to make it out there, that's where it is. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for watching this video.
Yeah, thank you for watching it. Thank you for participating in it, because really it's you guys that make it all worth it. The real reason why we're doing it is for you guys.